Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the 5 Million Milestone podcast, where Tim Kelsey and I talks about the ups and downs of what it really takes to grow a digital marketing agencies. Today, we're going to be talking about how transforming agency client relationships with lead-focused marketing can really make a difference for your business. And we have a really exciting guest today and a Pronto partner, Michael Cooney from WhatConverts. Hi, Michael. How are you doing?
Hey guys, good to be chatting with you guys. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, same here.
All right, awesome. All right, Michael, let's just dive right into it and start kind of from the beginning. Essentially, every entrepreneur has a unique story that shapes their business approach, and I'd love for our audience to kind of learn more about you. So if you can just walk us through your journey into the digital marketing world and what led you to found WhatConverts, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, great. I mean, how I got into the digital marketing world, I used to run an engineering directory where we'd connect manufacturers with suppliers, and the suppliers would pay us to advertise, to get access to these engineers. So it was lead generation in a sense. And then through that, to get more visitors to the directory, we became experts in SEO. And then our clients that were paying us for advertising, they were like, hey, you guys are doing great in Google. Can you help us? And we were getting about 250,000 visitors a month through Google. And so we were like, yeah, we can do that. And because we built our own website and all that, we started building websites, doing SEO, doing PPC, and we grew into a digital marketing agency. A recurring problem that we had that led to us founding WhatConverts is that we would generate leads for clients either through their website or through the directory, and tracking it was an issue. And we had a client that was very happy with us, great relationship. I walked into the meeting and I said, hey, we have doubled leads this month. Isn't that great? And he says, well, I don't know. Like, were they great? Like, weren't half of them like existing clients or customers? And it was just the doubt. I didn't have the information to back it up. I was going to use that as a step to motivate doubling the budget, so we can continue growing these great results. And I didn't have the data to show him, and I'd have to dig through, like take 3 hours digging through to answer that question. So I was like, okay, enough is enough. So we developed WhatConverts to capture all leads, to capture all the marketing data, and to capture every attribution point along the customer journey. So now when I go to that same customer meeting and he says, aren't they existing customers? I'll say, absolutely. But the last attribution method they used to come to you was through a Google Ads search. And they searched this term. It wasn't your company name. So if marketing didn't put you there, they may not have been a customer any longer. So it showed the value of marketing. So even though the customer may have even been 5 years old or they'd purchased before, we were finding that we could show the truth in where their customers were coming and requesting quotes and purchasing things. So we built that, and it came from the real pain points because I'd been doing that for 18 years before, and it's annoying when you can't answer these questions. So WhatConverts solves that very, very painful problem.
I think that's such a relatable story. I'm sure every agency owner has been there. We definitely have at Pronto, where you feel like, oh, this campaign is doing so well. We generated all these leads, and you go talk to them about it. And they kind of go, oh, yeah, I didn't really do anything with that. Or like, no, they just weren't good leads. Like, really,
Yeah.
like, how sure are, I mean, there's this distrust in both directions at that point,
Yeah.
where they think, oh, you're just trying to convince me that these bad leads were good. And the agency is thinking, well, did you actually follow through on the leads? Did you call them and have a real sales conversation with them?
Exactly.
So there's this huge gap between the agency and the client if you don't have that data to back it up.
Yeah,
So I'm
that's
sure every
interesting.
agency has been there and
Yeah.
needs a tool like WhatConverts to
Yeah,
help with that.
one of the big feedbacks we get from our agencies that use WhatConverts is that like we can hold our client accountable for actioning our leads properly. So exactly what you said, like, are they actioning them properly? And to be honest, a lot of salespeople don't. I mean, I can give
Mhm.
you examples, but sales can be pretty terrible in answering the phone, with leads generated from marketing. They just, they don't do a good job. And by highlighting that, you're increasing your value as the marketer, but you're also solving the problem, so everyone wins at the end of the day.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point about answering your phone, and you can even go back one step. It's like how you even route those leads that are coming in, because leads aren't just coming in through a form submission, but often they come in through the phone. But often it doesn't even go to a salesperson. I don't know. I'm always quite amazed when I listen to some of our client phone calls and try to get a sense of, oh, was this a good lead? And then you can kind of actually hear that it didn't go to the right kind of department. And I think having a process and a tool that really helps connect all those pieces can really transform that relationship between the agency and the client, because then you can sort of help them fill those gaps.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, and from there it's progressed. So it's not just about the quantity of leads, because I think a lot of times, like you weren't tracking leads and now you are. So the quantity of leads is a great metric to share with your customer. But I've just seen so many examples where you could get 100 leads, but there's just one lead that made all the difference. I've seen accounts where one lead in the whole year paid for the full marketing budget. And so it's like, if you're just focusing on leads, and then I've had the other opposite side where people are generating thousands of leads, but it's a nuisance dealing with these, and the client cancels because they're like, yeah, you bring us leads, but we have to filter through all the garbage. So it's like, but there were hundreds that were valuable, and they're like, And so I've seen both sides, where few leads, high value, and I've seen lots of leads, low value. And just having a tool with your agency makes a huge difference.
I'm interested if there's an agency out there who is having those struggles of showing the value of their marketing campaigns to their clients, and they sign up for WhatConverts. What advice or strategies would you give them to be able to show that value? Is it just showing reports from WhatConverts and data there, or is there more that they should be discussing and building that relationship and trust with their customer to show that there is value in what they're paying for?
Yeah, so I think it actually starts before you do anything for the client. In a perfect world, that conversation with the customer is like, what does success look like for you? Like, let's set the expectation. Because I've had situations where I feel that I'm achieving and doing a great job, and they're getting an ROI, but their expectation is different. And so there's that misalignment. So if you can align expectations from the beginning, that if you can do that one thing, it will make a huge difference going forward. And then once you're generating leads, so numbers are numbers, and they can be messed around. But at the end of the day, if you can give your clients access to the actual people that you're generating, so they can see the data. Oh, Charlie Brown came through for this thing, and yeah, we quoted them and we got the sales. Oh, and that came from this marketing. Just like giving a handful of those examples really helps. So giving your client access to the data behind the scenes, showing them that if they want to interrogate the data, they can go in there and like get all the questions answered. Because too many times you sit in the boardroom, and I kind of say the statement, can your reporting survive a boardroom interrogation? And what I mean by that is you go to the boardrooms and you have snapshot reporting. This generated 100 leads, and this product generated this many leads. And then the boardroom starts asking questions like, well, what was the value of those leads? Were they good? Were they bad? What products did they buy? And they start asking those questions, and if you can't answer them, everybody sort of left like, well, I'm not sure. So what I've found super valuable, and I was in a meeting with an agency serving an enterprise company, and what they did is they just took they took 3 leads, and then they walked them through the leads, then they showed them the journey that this lead went through on the customer journey, and then the value at the end. And that did more than thousands of data points or lots of data points. It was just like, in the boardroom, they could follow the journey to the value. Like, okay, so we paid how much for that? Okay, and then they came through and we got this result. Oh, wow, that's great. And here's another one. Oh, okay, do you have any more? He's like, yeah, here's some more as well. And they're like, oh, okay, so I can access this and look at all this and see the journey? And like, absolutely. And they're like, that's incredible. So it comes down to building trust. You don't want to be, you want to make sure you're on the same expectation level, but at the same time, you want to have tools that tell the truth. There's so many people been burned by marketing promising the moon, and all they got was a gumball or something. So I just find having a tool that reveals the truth. And if that truth is like, hey, sales deserves more credit than marketing, then that's great. Like, let's work from that basis. But I just think, our tool is there. It gets you the data, the full customer journey, and the value for the lead from the marketing. It's just, for a business point of view, makes very powerful.
I really love that perspective that it's not just about showing the high level data, but going down to show there's a human behind this interaction. There's a person who came to your website, took an action, filled out a form, or picked up the phone or something like that. I think that I can totally imagine that boardroom setting, and there's just these data points being thrown around, but it all becomes so much more tangible and real when you're telling a real story of this person saw this ad, clicked this link, arrived on this page, filled out this form, had this sales conversation, and bought this product. Any
Absolutely.
leader of a business is going to see that and be like, wow, okay, this is real stuff that we're doing here. We're bringing in real human customers, not just bot clicks or spam or something like that. So I think that's such a great perspective to have, that your reporting needs to hit the high level and the granular details all at the same time.
Yeah, and if you can show them that granular detail and that they can have access to it at any time, and then they know, okay, when you're showing me these high level figures, I know what it's representing. It's not just like, the boardroom people, it's like they have to interrogate the reporting to understand, like, what am I looking, can I make $100 million decision on this data? So if you break it down, you say, like, this is the data and this is what it's built from, and that you can see all these data points, and they're like, okay, now that I know that, I can make that huge decision.
One of the things that's also interesting in a tool like WhatConverts is you can also see where the journey sort of breaks apart, or where things are falling off. Because I think that it's one thing to know, oh, someone clicked on this link and then called in and submitted a code, but then often we see a lot of tools where there isn't that possibility to say, okay, well, sales give some feedback to marketing as well, and so it's kind of meant to be sort of a two-way approach and really help you align that marketing and sales journey, and kind of go, okay, well, did this convert into a quotable lead, and then, oh, did we actually close that lead, and so how much revenue was that worth? And so, like, when we're talking about that journey, I think just to help our listeners who may not be familiar with WhatConverts, like, you can go beyond just a form submission and kind of like the page visit history, and so that's where I think that the magic happens, is when you start getting feedback from sales.
Yeah, and I mean, so when you're starting with a new client, and what I do, because I still keep my hand in marketing, I do the marketing on WhatConverts, and I've still got my old agency, and I'll dog food WhatConverts on that agency. And so any new client, what it is, install WhatConverts, and I just spend time in the data. And so what you're saying is, like, where do the people come from? So, like, with WhatConverts, they don't just go from Google Ads to our page and sign up for a trial. You'd like them to do that, but they come to us to sign up for a trial. They go away, they go read some G2 reviews, then they come back from G2, and then they go and they do a search on Google Organic. They say, like, WhatConverts versus our competitor, and then they come back to a page on that, and then they go away again. So there's like 5 attribution points, and you see that whole journey, and then you realize, okay, hold on, it's not just like making a decision to install WhatConverts is not just a spur of the moment decision. It affects an agency and multiple clients, so they got to do a lot of research. So now that I know that, I can optimize for that. And so that's one example. Then if you're talking about like a plumbing company or a lighting company, and you see with plumbing companies, there's often a journey, like with or let's take heating, ventilation, HVAC. You'll see a typical journey. They come in, I need my HVAC repaired. It stopped working. They send out somebody, and there's an inspection call, and they fix it, and it's $1,000. And then you'll see down the road, like, it goes out again, and because they repaired it and they said, like, hey, we repaired it. That's great, but you should probably upgrade your system now that it's 20 years old. And then you'll see 3 months down the road, 6 months down the road, or even a year down the road, they're like, okay, we're ready to do it. And then it's a $20,000 order. So having that level of the journey, here's where people, marketing agencies kind of get shortchanged, is when that happens, the first repair gets attributed to marketing. Now they're in the system, and because like many of these CRMs, after 6 months, that customer becomes an existing customer. So if they place the order for the larger item after that, marketing no longer gets credit. Now it's credited to the internal sales team. And so it's like the marketing team gets shortchanged. And that's a real example. So that's one of the applications we work with, because we have the full journey, we can now back up the marketers. And it's not to say that 100% of the sales always has marketing, but if 40% of the 10 million revenue is attributed to marketing, that's a whole lot better than just $1 million. So 4 million being attributed to marketing is better than 1 million being attributed to marketing. And so why that's important from a business owner point of view is if they have the skewed data, which they do have, if it's just looking at the CRM, they invest more in operations and sales because they're like, well, that's where our revenue is derived from. Instead of, if they had the full picture, they'd be like, oh, hold on, let's take a good portion of that and put it to marketing, because marketing is, the top of the funnel. The more we put into there, the more we're going to handle. So it's all about just having data to provide a real, true picture.
I'm wondering if you've ever had come across any roadblocks or hurdles, because some of that is pulling back the curtain a little bit of what's happening in the business. And sometimes when we've talked to our customers about sales, I wouldn't say they get defensive, but they're sometimes a little apprehensive to let you into what's going on in the sales team and in sales down the road. How do you kind of overcome that? What kind of conversations do you have with as an agency owner with your clients to say, hey, we kind of need all of this to make sure we're doing the right thing for you?
So it's not a one the thing that fits all. It's kind of, I've got one customer, they've been a customer for 17 years. With my agency. So I've got an agency hat and a WhatConverts hat. So with my agency hat, they've been a customer for 17 years. And I decided I want to discover the average customer lifetime value so we can apply value to these leads, for marketing purposes. And I had a meeting with him and said, this is what I want to do. This is why I want to do it. And like, how much are the sales? And he told me, that's none of your business. And we trust each other. We know what's going on. He says, your job is to bring me leads and opportunities. My job is to turn those opportunities into sales. And so the basis there that we work on is like, okay, how much are you willing to pay for a lead? And it's like, okay, well, we prefer $100 a lead, but $200 a lead is fine. So that's the basis there. However, with the way marketing's changing and the AI and the machine learning, that's not good enough anymore. So now I go to him and say, like, okay, I understand that there's some business, but we got to feed value back to Google to make the algorithm work better. And we got to do it quickly. So when a lead comes in, we need to determine some value. You don't have to tell me the accurate value. As long as it's some representative value, then we can send it back to Google, because Google's algorithm is looking at your budget, looking at the value generated, and they optimize based on that. So we just found that, the conversation has changed over the years. So 10 years ago, when I told the customers that, like, I couldn't be bothered, but then that customer had a competitor compete and their budget tripled and the results stayed the same just because of competitive bidding. And I said, you've got two choices. We can just see who's got the deepest pockets, or we can be strategic. And for us to be strategic, I need you to add value to these leads. Here's a very simple process. When you get a lead in and you quote it, just, enter it in here, or let it connect to your CRM and let that come through that way. And I said, by doing that, then we can bid on the items that bring you the most value. And so maybe like, hey, it's worth $20 a click for this item, but only $1 a click. Well, if you can even get that these days, $1 a click for this other item. And so we did that, and the motivation changed because the market is getting more competitive. The amount of data is increasing. So you really have to optimize with value in mind. I don't know, does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had a similar situation with a customer recently. We sent out a survey regarding an email service that we have. One of the questions in the survey is, what's your annual marketing budget? Someone responded, other, none of your business. And
Yeah,
it's sort of like, we're here to help. We're not stealing secrets from you or anything. I really
yeah,
like that your perspective is explaining the logic and the value that comes from sharing that information, becoming like a deeper partnership, so you understand their business more and can be that strategic planner and not
yeah,
just sort of blindly run campaigns and hope it all works out for them in the end. But the more you know, the better decisions you're going to make with their campaigns. And I think
yeah.
having all that data is just so valuable for the agency as well, because
Hmm.
then especially if you get permission to use some broad financial numbers in a case study or something, generated X number of leads worth X value or anything like that, that becomes a super powerful case study at that point too for the agency to share and show other potential clients that, hey, we can deliver new business to you. We can help you grow real money, not just leads. We're providing real value down the line when it gets to sales.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's, if you want to be strategic, you need information, and
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it's building up that trust, and it comes from having that conversation in the beginning. Just what are the expectations, and sometimes you just got to start like, what, let's start on a cost per lead basis. What you're going to get, and then you build trust and say, okay, we got the cost per lead that we're wanting. I see opportunity here, but we're going to need these pieces of data to fill it in. So it's a journey, and it takes time. And I've had customers where it's like, if I'm answering the phone and I'm able to quote those phone calls and you send me more of those, that's all I care about. And it's like, okay, hey, we can work with that. But with that one, even though that was his level and he's happy at that level, even them give us quote value and mark leads as quotable now, because that same client was the one where competitors came in.
And are there any special sort of strategies that you use to sort of manage those expectations in terms of the realities of marketing performance over time? Um, I mean, there's a lot of seasonality often that plays in when you're in a B2B type business, especially,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of the numbers can go up and down. How is that something that you anticipate, that you kind of build within the strategy? And you also mentioned how bidding is getting more competitive these days, which means people are expecting faster results. So sort of, how do you sort of balance that need, in terms of clients expecting fast results, and then sort of those sort of variables that come inevitably with those B2B marketing campaigns?
Yeah, to me, it comes down to really knowing the expectations. So when you're in the market, this is a big question, and there's so many different answers to it. But if you're in a niche market and you know the time it takes and you've got experience and you can explain like, hey, this is what we've seen over the years and this is what you can expect, and you can communicate that, that's great. It gets more difficult when you're entering a new kind of industry where you don't know how long it's going to take. You don't know who the competitors are. You don't know how they're going to spend. And that can be a situation where many times I'll say, like, let's run a 3-month pilot. And, this is what we're going to do. This is the data we're going to collect. These are the goals we're going to try and achieve. And you bring them along like you do it. I call it the come alongside me approach, where you can either be combative and argue on things. And I've been doing demos and sales for a long time. That never works. I like the come alongside me approach, where it's like, okay, what goals are we looking to achieve? How can we help you do that? Let's look at this together. Like, here is how we see it. These are the expertise I have. Here are the expertise you have. Let's align on this and then work towards it. Let's set the goals. Let's run this pilot together and see how it goes. Because marketing, it's kind of like it's shifting sand a lot of the times. There isn't, and just having that honesty. I remember one customer, he came to me and they were going to do SEO, and he says, okay, so when do we get to the top of Google Organic? And this is going back many years. And I said, hold on. I said, let me lower your expectations. I said, I don't control Google. I said, I don't think we're going to get to the top of Google. But I said, what I do know is that what you're doing at the moment could be greatly improved. And we can move you from, page 5 to page 2. And that alone should give you significant increase. But, I just gave him a real situation and like a reality check. And he stopped me and he says, "You've got to be the worst salesperson I've ever met." And I said, "Hey, what you're going to get from me is the truth and honesty." And I just think by doing that, I mean, that customer, he started working with me in 2007, and he's still with the agency today, and he trusts me, implicitly, but it's because we've been truthful and honest. Now, is that the best sales strategy? Did I lose some clients because of that? Maybe, but it's so hard to get customers. Once you get them and you build that trust, it's a beautiful thing. You ultimately end up getting more revenue because of the duration and the trust you stack. What do we call it? Success stacking. So I try not going with the biggest package. Like, oh, $10,000 a month. I start with like, hey, what can we do with 2,000? And then what can we do with 4,000? And then over time, you stack that and then show them the results that's getting. That builds a tremendous amount of trust. One counterintuitive thing I've noticed is when you're working for a client and things have always gone up and they're always doing well, and it just appears that you're not really doing much because you've created things and they're like, what have you done for me lately? The growth has been down a bit. And it creates a situation where they're like, well, maybe I should make a change. And I've lost clients when they're getting maximum results, which is a weird thing. So one of it is reporting with the wrong metrics. Like if you report in the growth in SEO traffic, you hit a plateau at some point. So that's one problem. So I switched to reporting in leads and the value of those leads. And the reason for that is when you got value, like you're paying us this much, but you're getting like 10, 20x that, and it becomes an ROI conversation. So out of that journey, what I found, one of the most powerful things that's counterintuitive is when things go bad. If it goes bad, like there's a dip in results or a competitor comes in and they're spending triple and they go down, or if the site gets hacked and they lose their traffic, if you got the right reporting and you notice that before they do, and you come to them and say like, hey, big problem. This is what's happened. I've looked at it, I've analyzed it, and here's the strategy to fix it. That, for whatever reason, they get such luck. They're like, oh, wow, we're losing all this business. We're losing all this traffic. What are we going to do? And it's like, hold on, I've done this. I've got you. Here's the strategy. That builds so much trust, and it increases the value perception in their eyes, like tremendously. So I don't know what I'm trying to say there, but having the reporting because leads and sales are a lagging indicator. And with our tool, you can see when there's a drop in leads. So as soon as that happens, like it just happened the other day, Google Ads, I opened up the report and Google Ads was down 50%. And like, whoa, what happened there? So I went to investigate it. The credit card stopped being billed. So ads weren't being shown. So I just, I went to them and I'm like, hey, leads were down. You may see a little bit of a blip. We found out the problem. We've resolved it. And they're like, oh, Michael, I am so glad we have you. You just like sort everything out. We don't even have to think about it because we know you're on top of it. So having things that go bad may seem like a bad thing, but it's really, it's always increased my perception value if you get in front of it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think clients want you to be proactive, and I think that's what you're demonstrating there by bringing up the problem. And then the second thing, they want you to guide them and kind of, those are things we hear as well that client appreciate from us, is when we're like, okay, well, this is what the situation is all about. This is the competition, and they're aware, obviously, that there are competitors and that there are Google algorithm changes and all of those things. But then if you present them with like, here are your options, those are the different directions, and help them make the decision that they need based on their own situation and budget, they're usually appreciative. So.
I'd like to go back for a second, Michael, to your sales conversation story about sort of that brutal honesty. And I mean, you've mentioned expectations multiple times during our conversation here, which I totally agree is such an important thing to get right from the very beginning. But it almost seems like that's your way, in that honesty that you provide on a sales call. It's kind of your way of filtering out bad fit clients early on, rather than getting stuck with someone who has those mismatch expectations and then nobody's happy and it causes stress for everybody involved. What other things do you do, or what sort of red flags do you look for in those conversations to decide whether someone's a good fit or not? And how has that led to you having a successful agency and now a successful SaaS tool as well?
Yeah, you want to make sure that you can deliver value for money. And so I can give you a couple of examples, but I remember this one guy, he came to me and he's a realtor, and he wanted to generate mortgage leads. And so he was like, I want to generate mortgage leads for $20. And so I went and looked and did some keyword research, and looked into the Google Ads campaign, like what people are paying for keywords and things like that, how many searches you need or how many clicks you need to convert. I looked at all that data, and I just determined, you're competing with LendingTree and all the big mortgage sales leads. And so when I looked at it, I was like, yeah, no, you're going to need to spend $100 to get a lead. And he was like, well, that's ridiculous, because LendingTree, I can buy LendingTree leads for like $40. And I'm like, yeah, because LendingTree sells the leads and they have great organic positioning, and they sell their leads to 5 realtors at the same time. So 40 times 5 is $200. So I said, if you want to use Google Ads, and he wanted to use Google Ads to do this, I was just like, this is a no-go. And I said, unless you're willing to spend $100 a lead, I can't see this working. So it's just understanding the dynamics and the financials around a business, just like very broadly. It helps you determine if there's, I call it, you look at probabilities. Is there a high probability of success? That's what I'm trying to determine. And with that case, it was a very low probability. So it was a no. There was another one that we got a referral from a very happy customer to somebody else. And I looked at it, and they were in a very niche market. And they were already spending the max budget you could spend on the term in Google Ads, and they weren't getting the results. And I looked at it, and the guy was like, hey, man, this was the first way. I've been through 3 marketing agencies, and they've all been terrible, but I hear you do great things. So here we go. That's a red flag. Most of the time, run away from that. But then the other thing is, when I looked at the Google Ads account, I'm like, you're targeting the right terms, you're getting the right clicks, you're spending the max budget. There's just not the market demand, to improve this. Because if you get 1,000 searches a month, and 10% come to you, and of those 10%, only like 5% convert, that just wasn't, based on what he is spending and what he sells for, there was never going to be an ROI. Anyway, we proceeded, and it was a disaster. So just looking at the financials and determining what's the probability of me getting a strong ROI for this customer. That's the first step. If there's not a strong probability of that, then it's like, okay, better to walk away. And the other thing is just making sure you get the right. If you go to somebody, like, there's 2 companies that are identical that I'm familiar with. They do flooring. One spends about $3,000 a month on Google Ads for his local flooring company, and he probably makes $100,000 a month. The other one spends $1 million a month on Google Ads, and he makes $1 million a month. And so you look at those and you say, like, if you go to the one spending $3,000 a month, you got to ask the question, like, there is the opportunity for him to expand, but does he want to? Does he have the team to handle the growth? Is there the desire to grow? You got to ask those questions. And I think I've seen that we have other customers that serve plumbing companies, and their requirement is you already have 5 trucks with technicians, and you want to double that or even triple it over the next 3 years. If you don't desire that, and you don't have the capacity or the know-how to do that, you're not a good fit for us. So it's just understanding, can I, with a high probability, generate success for this company, and will that company be able to handle that success and grow as we grow these marketing budgets? If you can tick those, then it's a good fit. If you can't, you got and you want the business and they'll give you money, just understand that the aggravation to try and get them results and the time you spend in trying to make them happy, instead of spending that time finding better fitting customers, in the long run, saying no to them is going to make you successful putting the time into finding the right fit customers.
I love that. It's almost like the red flag you're looking for is if they are going to be expecting you to be a business consultant beyond just the marketing. They're going to need your help and your hand holding to show them, here's how this affects your business and here's how I would handle it. If like they're having that level of, or going to need that level of help, either you need to be prepared to be sucked into that, or you need to be prepared to say no and realize that's not how your time should be spent. Like you just said, it should be spent finding better fit clients who are ready to take the leads and prospects that you're able to deliver and run with it and do whatever their business needs to be successful on top of that.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, even with so I'm head of the sales team as well at WhatConverts, and they know, like, I've got rules. I said, like, a bad fit customer costs us too much money. I do not want bad fit customers. I said, if they do not fit these criteria, I want you to say no. You're going to walk away. And so I'm very clear. I've learned my lesson now that bad fit customers cost money. They don't make you any money.
That's definitely true.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, this is the end of our questions, Michael. So thanks so much for answering all of them. And where can our listeners find out more about you online and message you?
I'm finally doing something, with my socials. I'm on LinkedIn. So I think if you just search Michael Cooney, WhatConverts, you'll find me. Or I think LinkedIn/Michael Cooney, somewhere there.
All right. Awesome. Yeah, definitely follow Michael on LinkedIn. I follow you already, and I really enjoy a lot of the information that you share out there. So again, thanks so much, Michael, and thanks again, Tim. And that's it for today.
Well, thanks guys. Fun chat.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Bye.